Welcome to Happy Hour Holidaze, your go-to podcast for business, entrepreneurship, and life stories. What we're here to do is to motivate you to be whatever you want to be and make those dreams come true. Your host, Manny Fresh, your co-host, Sean Fabre, and today we got the Rainmaker himself, the guy who produces more sales in real estate than you've ever seen in your lifetime. The boom over here in Florida, Brandon Rhymes.
Yeah, I love it, man.
What's up, Brandon?
Thank you, buddy. Love it, love it.
Yeah, dude, man.
Blessed and highly favored, brother.
I love it, man. And I love your motivation every single day. We were talking about how, you're still one of the few that cold call. Still to this day, nobody does that shit. This guy wakes up and every time we're with him for lunch or anything, he's got his phone blowing up because he's cold called more people than you scroll on Instagram. So if you're looking for somebody to teach you how to be successful in real estate, Brandon knows how to do it. Going back to the early days, Brandon, I mean, what gave you this motivation to be a successful, business person, entrepreneur, and to have this drive? Like, what was it early on in your childhood that really got you to this point?
Yeah, I was an oldest sibling in the family, and my dad was a very strong influence as far as business goes. So we grew up in the family business, which was lawn maintenance and foreclosure cleanup. And so I think, work ethic came in early with me and my brothers, because if we weren't playing a sport, we were working with dad. So we would figure out a way to be involved in a sport so we didn't have to work with dad. And he was a tough-nosed son of a gun. He came from a pretty hard school district, and he brought that winning mentality. They were state champions when he was younger, and then he brought that mentality into our football. And I was a quarterback on the team, so as the quarterback, you're naturally the field general. You're the leader on the field. And we won a lot of games. We beat a lot of teams. We went undefeated. We beat teams that nobody thought we would beat. And that's always been great as far as my background, because, when you start winning, you get that momentum, and then you want everybody, and then it attracts more momentum. It attracts more winners, and then you just have that snowball effect.
And you played a lot of big time players that made it to the NFL on your way to the state championship, or
that's right.
So I mean, some of these guys. I mean, can you give us some of the names of a couple of these guys that you played against?
Because I'm from South Florida, so a small town down in South Florida called LaBelle, but we played against Belgrade, Immokalee, Naples, Fort Myers, all these big schools that had teams like Edgerrin James, Anquan Bolden, Travis Henry, Kenny Kelly, Daryl Jackson, just different names, big name players that played in the NFL and other places. Travis Henry and some of these big athletes. They were strong athletes, but we had a team. That's what's awesome is we had 24 seniors that year. Talk about my senior year now, where we went undefeated, went to the state championship game. But so the original question is about the motivation. I've always been kind of a self-starter and a motivate, and I just remember Dad saying, hey, when you're walking from a job to a next job or one part of the house to the other, he would say, walk with a purpose, pick that step up. We got a certain amount of deals we got to get done today. And, just had that momentum, that cadence to it.
Yeah, and it kind of influenced, going into sports and then business. So, I mean, with your sports life, I mean, what made you pick quarterback when you were kind of starting out? And then when did you start playing football?
Yeah, I was 9, 10 years old. We played in 1987. We were in the Pop Warner Super Bowl #1. So
so this guy, all he did was winning, dude.
The very first Super Bowl, man. It was pretty cool. And we played, and we won the state of Florida, won the state championship, and then we went to Atlanta. We played the Atlanta Colts and got beat by a team that had, far more athletes to choose from. Back then you had the age group and the weight class. Yeah. They were all at the top weight. I think it was 107 because you got a half a pound a week for growth.
Yeah.
So all their big boys were 107, and then you had the older lighters that could be older, 1 year older, but they had to be lighter. Yeah. So they were 65 pounds or whatever it was. And they had their max number of those guys. So the competition was hard to compete from a small town to playing Atlanta.
But I freaking saw the video, man. You were no fucking joke. I mean, the swag, dude.
Yeah, bro.
Shrugged him off, bulldozed the other guy, and then ran for a 60-yard touchdown, dude. Bro. I think that video was, you're probably 12 or 13.
Right, yeah. I pulled out some of the old VHS clips, and I'd pull out my smartphone and just film a clip where I was running, making some moves, juking some dudes.
Yeah, dude, that was awesome. That's always good to see right now, man. It's almost like, man, sometimes I wish I could go back to those days and put everything I had into sports, because my dad used to always tell me, he used to be like, bro, do you just want to wake up every day and just be able to play sports?
Yeah.
Or do you want to just fucking have to get a job and grind it out? I was like,
Yeah.
man, I should have fucking listened to the guy. I should have just dedicated every minute to be the best athlete I could have been.
Yeah.
So I could have done that for the rest of my life. Because not only like is it fun to play sports, but it's also about like being there with your boys, and it's like you're in a battlefield. But I mean,
camaraderie.
But as a quarterback, you had to be the leader. I mean, really, a lot, almost all of it fell on you. Like if you weren't in it, then the team wasn't in it. So how were you able to like keep that positive focus when you had some down games where you guys were struggling a little bit and you're like, fuck, I got to pick up my team.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was also kick returner, punt returner too. So it kind of brings you right to the beginning of the game, right? The ball's coming down. It's like, I got it.
The tone.
And then boom, so you set the tone. We couldn't call a lot of audibles back then. We just, the offense was a little bit limited. But, if I saw where I'd have, 5-10 yards on a quarterback sneak or something, I would switch it to a quarter. That was the one audible coach would let me do.
That's a quarterback sneak?
Yeah. Oh. And I would do it. And it was funny because our center, it was a good friend of mine, but he had a dog that got hit by a semi-truck. So I'd use that dog's name as the audible because I knew it'd piss him off. And it'd be either one or two. So it'd be to the left or the right. But anyway, so the momentum, So, I think it's just about, and this is something my dad used to say in Pop Warner. He'd say, look, he said, I don't care where they're from, what they do, what color they are. He said, if you come out that first play and you bust their ass and you hit them hard, so he'd get you motivated to get, basically strike first blood. Gotcha. Right? Because if you strike first blood as a kid, whoa, I'm here all day. Yeah. I got to deal with this all day. So he really, had that. We had that kind of that front runner mentality is, come out, hit hard, and then of course there's strategy to it as well.
For sure. And then, being the leader and being the top dog, I mean, you're going to go up there and not everybody's going to like you. I mean, how did you deal with that? Even being a kid, knowing that, hey, some of my teammates think I take it too serious or whatever. Yeah. How do you get past those years for other people out there that are like, hey, I want to be a leader, but I'm really nervous about people not liking me. Like, I want to be liked, but at the same time, it's like, you don't give a shit because you got to make it up there. So how do people deal with that? Or, young kids growing up now that want to be a leader?
Yeah, I just think winning is contagious. And if you win, you get momentum. People are going to want to be around winners. And it's not a win at all costs situation. Of course, you're not cheating. You're not doing these things. But he used to always say, you don't have fun if you lose. You have fun if you win. So let's go out there and win. Let's do everything within our power to win. And that's in business. It kind of relates right now with the way that the real estate climate is right now. Yeah. Right. So a lot of businesses orders might be down. The economy shrinking in our business. The number of, just let's face it, the number of buyers and sellers that are ready, willing, and able right now are not there. The stat is 90% of Americans have less than a 6% interest rate. So, that interest rate's playing into that new buy.
Can you say that again? 90% of mortgage or homeowners have less than a 6% interest rate? Holy cow.
Yeah, because think about it. The Fed kept rates so low for so long, helping out. What they're doing is they're propping up their Wall Street buddies so they could go out and buy all these assets at record low cost of funds. So what happened is you had a 12 or 13 year run, I think, where we were keeping the rates at 0 to a quarter, 0.25% interest, right? And that's your overnight lending rate. That's your federal funds rate, which of course then in turn affects mortgage and auto loans, student loans, et cetera. But when you look at the state of the economy right now and the state of the real estate market right now, you've got to be doing something unique. You've got to be doing something different. And that's where it comes into your USP, your value proposition, your unique selling proposition. And it also comes in the other thing that I didn't do in the early part of my career, but I do a lot better now, and our team does, is working your sphere of influence, your previous clients, staying close to those folks and adding more value to them, keeping them close, making sure that that person you sold a house to 6 months, 12 months, or a real estate property, commercial vacant land to is going to call you first, because the numbers are staggering, that they actually would, but they don't remember the person's name.
Yeah, but even, I mean, your team is growing. So now in this decline, we're talking about a decline in real estate because of the interest rates. How are you growing your business and able to recruit such great agents under your team?
Yeah, so I think it's about, if I'm a free agent as a realtor, so to speak, right? Just like an athlete's like, hey, I want the best team, the best situation, or I want to be in sunny South Florida if I'm over, whatever, cold Green Bay, right? Yeah. for real estate, if I'm a free agent in real estate or a newer agent, maybe even, and I'm looking at, okay, what's the value add here? What am I getting for the split? Because that comes into play. And it comes down to the amount of tools, the amount of resources, the amount of strategy that you have as a real estate professional. So Keller Williams Realty, of course, the number one real estate company on the planet, by far. 1 in 4 transactions nationwide, worldwide, involve a real estate Keller Williams agent. Okay, wow. So it's complete and total domination, right? And there's some other worthy opponents, et cetera, but they're still not doing what we're doing, right? So if you think about Keller Williams, Gary Keller, doing it since the 80s, billion-dollar company. What he did is he launched this new line. It's called Livian. Livian Coastal Elite is my wife Lindsay and I's company. It's also a platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. But Livian is this expansion model. It's a very cool, innovative approach. Gary owns 90%. Adam owns 10%. So what he did is he looked around at all of his agents nationwide, and he said, hey, what if I wanted to have an elite group, an expansion group, what would I do? So he structured this company called Livian. It's only been around for a couple of years, and Lindsay and I joined about 6 to 8 months ago, roughly, because we saw this downturn coming, right? We saw what was happening. There's going to be less transactions. How are you going to maintain market share or even grow market share, right? And then on the flip side, with some of the other agents, they're going back to being a personal trainer, bartender, whatever they were doing, right? Hairstylist. So now it comes down to your model, your strategy, and how you can grow your business. And we're not one of these companies that buy a ton of Zillow leads or whatever. Yeah. I don't believe in that, because what happens is you spend. It's like, oh wow, you're working for that second generation deal, maybe where you get the referral 6 months later. I get it. That's what a lot of the real estate coaches talk about, Jeff Glover and them. But for Livian, going back to Livian now, because what we did is we joined Livian, and this company has a complete, it's like you've heard of that term, like business in a box, right? So you have a marketing department, we have an HR department, we have an accounting department, we have built-in coaching. Every Wednesday, Lindsay has a coaching call with someone who's already built a big business and sold it and got out of the business and said, hey, I'm bored, I want to get back into real estate, right? So you have the leadership, the mentoring there built in. So it's a really unique model. And the key is for Lindsay and I, as the rainmaker on the team, and she's more of the office, kind of the team leader, the process, the organization, kind of keeps everything together, right? You have complementary skill sets, but for us, the least amount of time we can spend on bringing in new people, doing tedious stuff, setting up the email for the new hire, all that kind of basic stuff that can be allocated to someone else, delegated. That's what you want. And that's what we have with Livian now. So we're able to bring on agents with that same model of high producing agents with that model in mind. It's like, hey, bring your business over here, and you're not going to have to worry about all the basic stuff. Now all you have to focus on is getting new clients, taking care of your current clients, and focusing on what you're good at.
And you were kind of telling us about the situation right now in the real estate market, or being a realtor, that a lot of realtors now need that value play because it's tough out there, and you need somebody who's going to provide you leads. So what do you see in the future as far as realtors? Do you see this happening more as the interest rates continue to rise? More realtors that are out there doing a solo job, joining teams to make more money?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what happened, and we predicted that was going to happen. You even have a lot of brokerages, small brokerages, that are either going to look at closing shop and saying, hey, well, maybe we'll come back in 3 years, 5 years when the market fully bounces back. Or they will kind of integrate and assimilate into a team like ours, because when you have a team like ours that has all these building blocks, everything that's there for you, resources, technology, education, support, training, and what's cool with the technology is that technology will work within each system. So this system will play with this system, and it's all integrated. So it's really unique and innovative. But I think that's exactly what's happening. Is you have agents that are either saying, look, I can't deal with this anymore. I've got to go back to being a server, part-time, bartender, whatever, right? So you have people that are going to be like that, and they'll still do their 1 or 2 deals a year and get a little referral money, right? And then you have the agents that are saying, look, I'm not going back to doing that. I'm gonna do whatever it takes, right? I'm gonna wake up early. I'm gonna do the extra coaching. I'm gonna do these things, and I'm going to be successful in real estate. And I think that's what you have to do today. Yeah. If you want to be successful, look, this is a 100% commission business. There are some companies that will pay you a W-2, but then you make a small percentage of your sales, right? But the way that I do it and the way that I've always done it is this is a 100% business. Okay, self-employed, 100%, self-employed business. If I don't close a sale, I'm not making any commission, right? So if you take that step and you get to that point in your career, you've got to take everything serious. Yeah. You've got to have systems in place. You've got to have team members that have your back. Right. And so that's what we do. I mean, we take it serious,
And you also did. I mean, you jumped into commercial real estate. I've seen a lot of your commercial, listings out there. I mean, you started off residential, jumped into commercial. I mean, big time commercial. I mean, we're talking about multi-million-dollar listings. And then you also had another one that you joined. You got selected for it's like a sports entertainment group.
That's right.
Yeah, as well. Tell us a little bit more about that sports entertainment.
Yeah, KW, Keller Williams Sports Entertainment, another innovative part of KW. What I like about Keller Williams is we have all these different niches, right? So you got Keller Williams Land, you got Keller Williams Commercial. Sports and entertainment is designed specifically for, it fits perfect for someone like me because you have, of course, a football background, played at USF and, the sports we talked about earlier. But the idea with the Keller Williams Sports Entertainment is to network specifically into these different niches, right? And sometimes what might happen is you may have an athlete that's moving to the area. He doesn't want to, or maybe even he's just looking for a summer rental. Or he wants to have a house in Miami close to the Keys and do some fishing, right? So it may start sometimes with a short-term rental. And as realtors, you're like, there's not much money in that, right? But you've got to have the vision to know that is going to turn into when he signs his next contract or a bigger contract. Now that's going to turn into a multi-million-dollar purchase potentially, right? And then all his friends and family, et cetera.
Yeah. So when we get back at Happy Hour Holidaze, we're going to talk about the unique play that Brandon Rhymes has with his consumer quarterback show as he started a radio show as a host and also has a very big value play for clients out there to be able to get their listings announced on the radio. This is public radio, 102.5 The Bone, and then also AM
860 The Answer.
860 The Answer. So when we get back, we're going to talk to him what led him into that path and how successful is it to his business now. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we appreciate you tuning in to Happy Hour Holidaze. And welcome back to Happy Hour Holidaze. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, but we're here with Brandon Rhymes, the rainmaker of KW. So you have a very unique play here that I know a lot of realtors probably have never done. You have a radio show on public radio, 102.5, 860 AM.
Yep.
How did you come up with that idea? The consumer quarterback show, by the way, guys. You can hear it at 5 p.m.
4 o'clock drive time on 860 The Answer. That's Salem Media's flagship station here in Tampa Bay, broadcast radio. And it's also 93.7 FM on the translator. And so 4 o'clock drive time. The daily content during the day is talk programming from nationally syndicated show hosts. Great content. Guys like Charlie Kirk, Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Sebastian Gorka, Brandon Tatum's awesome on there as well. Some really good show hosts throughout the day. So broadcast, and then we have our Sunday show on 102.5 The Bone. And so the USP, you want me to kind of show what my USP is?
Yeah.
So what I did back in 2010, I went to Business Mastery with Tony Robbins, and it kind of opened up my mindset in a sense of, what Tony talks a lot about is how do you add more value to your clients, right? How do you have something innovative and different and unique that's going to help you differentiate from your competitors? And that's when over 10 years ago now I started. Back then we called it the Real Estate Quarterback Show when you and I first met.
Yeah.
When we talked about that, Sean, it was the Real Estate Quarterback Show, and I had good time. I was bringing on home inspectors, attorneys, title companies, mortgage. Yeah, I had Warwick Dunn back in the day.
Grant Cardone too.
Grant Cardone.
What was it?
Mayor Bob Buckhorn.
Bob Buckhorn back in the day. Yeah. So you bring on the mayors, you bring on congressmen, Buccaneer football players. The late and great Vincent Jackson was on the show.
Ron and Ian from Ron and Ian.
That's
show?
right. Yeah, Ian Beckles.
Beckles.
Yeah. So you bring on some celebrities here and there, local celebrities, different level. Ken Shamrock, one of my buddies. Yeah. And you have these unique ideas. And then, but for me, when I'm also doing my telemarketing, my sales calls, I'm pitching the fact that I'm featuring my real estate listings live on air on my daily broadcast radio and TV show, maximizing the exposure, helping our sellers profit more and sell faster, because we're casting a wider net, right? To use the fishing example metaphor is you take this big cast net, you're casting out a bigger net, you're pulling in more prospects, right? Whereas the traditional is like, hey, we got a line over here, we got a line over here. We're casting it out, we're getting more prospects, and then once you have the content. Now, like you guys are doing so well with your podcast on congratulations on having a relatively newer podcast that's getting a big reach already and bringing on some cool guests. But, you're doing similar things, right? You're now you have your reels, you have your shorts, you have your content, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, all the different sites, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's the model now, is that you have a talk show, you have an innovative talking point to talk to people about, and then it actually you back it up with truth and proof of here's where it reaches.
Yeah. Can we get a bold real estate market prediction? Where do you see the real estate market heading in the next 4 to 5 years?
Yeah, so short term, how about if I break it down short term and a little bit longer term? So I think short term right now, we're going to continue to struggle. Probably, I would say, if you call it a struggle, however you want to look at it, but let's face it, volume's down, transactions are down, and there's two different ways to break this down. You've got a commercial real estate and a residential, right? So we all know that most markets are low inventory still. Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, where we're at, you're at an 80% absorption rate, 1.2 months supply of inventory. So inventory is still down. That's been plaguing our area for a long time. But what you also have now is a shrinking and a smaller buyer pool due to the rising rate environment that we're in, caused by the feckless leadership in DC. And what happens is when you have this rising interest rate environment, you have uncertainty. Going back to that stat, 90% of homeowners have less than a 6% interest rate on their mortgage. So a lot of folks, if you put yourself into the buyer's, prospective buyer's position, homeowner's position, I'd like to move closer to the kids. I'd like to move closer to the beach or closer to work, but I don't want to give up this great rate and this low payment that I have. And if I do that, I'm probably going to go to 7.5% or maybe even 8% if I have a little ding on my credit. So I'm not willing to do that. What I think is going to happen, so I think over the next couple of months, that's going to potentially be the situation, because the employment numbers came in strong. They're probably going to raise rates again, and then that's going to cause, because they're trying to stamp down and tap down the inflation, right? Inflation is pretty high. Now, over the long term, what's going to happen is that I think closer that we get towards the elections, they're going to try to bring rates down, try to stimulate the economy and show more transactions and show some positive momentum going into the election year. So you'll probably have that, and who knows, we may have an election year variant as well as on the COVID.
No, and when it comes to like the builders and land, I mean, is that something? Because I saw this map that was basically saying, man, we're still like well below the inventory. Like we don't have enough houses for the amount of people that are moving here.
Right.
So I mean, how are the builders going to keep up with this demand?
Yeah.
And you're right. If there's 90% of people with less than 6%, and we're Tampa itself has 12.3% inflation, they're thinking, if I sell this house, I get the higher rate, how am I going to afford to live and pay my mortgage? So I'd rather stay put. And it's really killing us.
Aren't builders dropping their list prices?
I think they are.
They have to. They're doing incentivizing too, and this is something to be careful of, because of the builder, they try to get you in, and then they say, "Oh, well, if you do this, we'll give you our mortgage company will give you this discount. If you use our title company, we'll give you this discount." And I've seen people get into a situation with builders where if you're not careful, they hold all of the negotiation power. So you've got to be really careful. That's one of my strong suits is I'm a certified negotiation expert. I actually teach classes on negotiation. I teach classes on the class is called How to Win with Sellers. So how to win with sellers. But the other big kind of elephant in the room is the state of the insurance in the great state of Florida. We've had so much fraud. A lot of the underwriters and companies have pulled out of the state of Florida. So there's a big challenge there. And also, Manny, you hit on that as far as housing starts. Builders need confidence to be able to plan some of these projects. When you talk about a planned unit development, you're talking about 12, 24, 36 months out until they're actually done and they get cash flow coming in when they can sell, right? Yes, they may sell some contracts and have some cash flow coming in, but I'm talking about the CO once you get the certificate of occupancy. So once you get that CO, that's when you can close on the loan. Now they get all their funding. So it's a balancing act, right? So they have to have confidence that the economy is going to be in good shape and the interest rates are going to be fine before they start breaking ground and spending all this money. And then another challenge that I've seen from some economists talking about is the local municipalities not approving enough projects fast enough. So that it's a lot. There's a lot there, right?
And I think that's the biggest one, Brandon. Is it's the approval rate for permits and all that. It's just taking far too much time for them to get approvals, and it deters people from actually wanting to be builders. Even if you're talking about Joe Schmo going out there and building 3 or 4 spec homes, they're helping us get that population under control for people to purchase houses. And if you make it too difficult for them to get building permits, they're going to be like, you know what? Let me just go back to try to flip some houses.
So,
exactly.
One thing I didn't know about you is that you're a certified negotiation. What was it? Expert.
Yeah, CNE.
So what's one tip for negotiating with? Because you said sellers, correct?
That, yeah.
What is one tip you can give the audience for negotiating with sellers?
Yeah. So a quick negotiation tip would be to ask open-ended questions. And use minimal encouragers when you're talking to that person. Yeah, sure. And then one simple trick is to just mirror back what they say. So if you say something, if we're negotiating something, and whatever you say back, if you just repeat the last 2 or 3 words that person said, what are they naturally going to do? If you just repeat back
they're going to think that you like them and that you're listening to them.
Yeah, you're listening, you're engaged, you're active listening, you're nodding your head, you're making eye contact. And then if I ask you to repeat or say, if I just repeat those last 2 or 3 words, you're going to naturally not embellish, but you're going to naturally add more nuance and detail to that. So you're going to tell me more than you actually told me the first time, right? So I'm going to try to uncover and get to the underlying reason why you said what you said.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, sure. So if we're talking,
so when you say a seller, do you mean like somebody selling their house and you're a buyer's agent?
It could be could be any position.
Oh, just any.
So if I'm negotiating with a,
let's say I'm selling
agent,
let's say I'm selling a house.
Yeah.
And you're the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess how does the negotiation go?
So you're selling the house. You're the listing agent?
No. Yeah, sure.
Okay, you be the listing agent. I'll be the buying agent. Let's see. So I made an offer to you. Sean, we feel our offer is pretty fair at $100,000.
And how much was the list price? Like 120?
Let's say it's 110.
110?
Yeah,
okay.
We say we feel we made a pretty strong offer at $100,000. We wanted to put $1,000 in escrow to show good faith, about 1%, which is pretty typical for us. We have a veteran here, a VA buyer that really loves this home. We like the neighborhood, and we wanted to present that offer to you.
We really don't want to take less than 105.
You don't want to take less than 105?
Oh, is that what you meant right there?
So I'm repeating it.
Okay.
Right? And then when I said that back, you would probably add more nuance to that and detail.
Well, it's because of, this, that. They want a car after they sell the house, et cetera, et cetera. And you didn't need to know any of that information, right? But now you know that they want to buy a car after they sell the house or whatever it may be, right? So I'm just divulging information that you normally wouldn't get if you just took we don't want to take less than 105, period.
Right. Yeah, you want to talk less.
That's a good tactic, man.
Yeah, you want to talk less, ask more questions. So what's important to your seller?
The money.
Okay. What else?
They want to buy a car after they sell the house.
Okay. Why do they want to buy a car?
Because they hate their car that they have now.
Okay.
Oh, see, I'm just answering these.
Yeah, but see what I'm doing? I'm saying why, and I'm
You flipped it now. Now it's almost like you're selling.
I
and
know,
he's
right?
buying.
And then I'm like thinking to myself, maybe we should sell it. I don't know.
And then
that's a good tactic.
The other
I
thing
like
you can do, it's a lot of it. Too,
that's NLP, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of NLP in this.
Yeah.
It's neuro linguistic programming,
Yeah.
and it's also it's simple, open-ended questions, eye contact, asking open-ended questions, just following up with a question with another question, and then you're going to get to a point where let's say this. Let's talk about tone, right? Because we've heard of the
tonality,
right?
Yeah.
The 7-38-55% rule, right?
Yeah.
Only 7% is the actual words. 38% is the tone that you use, whether you're mad and upset or you're sweet and you're nice and you're talking to your honey and you're trying to be sweet because you want to go on that boys trip or whatever it might be. So the tonality, right? So I might come back if you didn't accept that, and I say. We let's say we negotiated back and forth and we came down. We're pretty close here. I might say, Sean, do you really want to lose this deal over $3,800?
I'm gonna have to present this to my sellers.
Right there you go. But you see how I did that? Like, do you really want to lose this deal over $3,800?
I use that one.
See how
a
my
lot.
voice went up?
Right. Yeah.
Whereas,
tonality.
Yeah. So my voice went up, and it's like a question mark, right? When I go up, it's a question mark. Let's say you're negotiating with me, and I'm a seller. Let's say you're a seller, and I'm the listing agent, and you say, do you charge 6%, or do you have to be at 6%? And I would come back with, yeah, our commission is 6%.
That's a statement.
See how that's downward inflected voice, and it's flat, and there's no, yeah, our commission's 6%. No, it doesn't work that way, right? Yeah, we try to get 6%. Right? No, our commission's 6%. And that's it. It's the finality, right?
There's authority right there.
There's a finality there, right?
Yeah. And
so
then
that's just some basic stuff.
And then, just going back to this, I'm always curious. So let's say you're trying to get an investment property, Brandon, and this realtor tells you, hey, we've had this listing on for 5 days. We got 14 offers. How do you break through when there's so many offers? Like during COVID, when there was like, no listing appraisal or waiving appraisal, sight unseen. Like, how did you get through during that tough time? Because you had to be creative at that time to actually get, because you'd have your buyers, they're like, oh, we really want this house, but you're fighting like 10 offers. How did you wiggle your way through to get to the top when it came to that kind of time period?
Yeah, so we have a class called Win with Sellers, which is where I teach, and I specialize in winning the listings, bringing in new listings. We've got about 55 current listings with our team, and when you have listings, that drive sales calls, it drives other sellers, other buyers, right? And on the buy side, there's some pretty cool tips and strategies and tactics that we employ there. My wife does more on that side of our business, but we also have classes where we teach how to, we call it how to, win with sellers, but also how to list your buyers. Because just like you think about getting a listing on the selling side, on the listing side, for sellers, we want to list the buyers too, right? So we want that buyer committing to us, working with us exclusively, not just going with whatever agent, because you've seen it. You've probably heard that, right? I'm calling this agent for this area. I'm calling this agent over here, or I just want to talk to the listing agent.
They sign a contract with you, right?
They can sign an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. It's called an EBBA. And that's good because you're getting commitment from them, and it's lets you know that they're committed to you within a certain time frame. But yeah, to get to your answer there, Manny, what you want to try to do is create as many reasons and remove as many roadblocks as you can for that buyer, that listing seller and listing agent to want to work with you. Right. So you what you might do is work with their pre-approval lender. Sometimes they have who's your lender that you like? Okay, great. Let's get a second look from their lender. Right. That's good because that's gonna now, if lender A can't close the deal, now, okay, fine, we'll go to lender B. They already have a pre-approval worked up for us, and we can easily, close the deal with them. And that might incentivize them. You would also create as much emotion as possible. So you're going to talk about the emotions involved with the transaction and why you want your buyer in there, and because they are a veteran and they have small kids and they love this backyard and it's been their lifelong dream to live in this neighborhood, right? So you're going to create as much emotion as you can. And there's some other unique tactics and strategies that we employ to help buyers, and a lot of it's being first to the game. It's being professional. It's basics too. It's sometimes I'll get offers and it'll just be see attached. No. Why don't you break it down for me in the email?
Yeah.
Hey, purchase price, deposit amount, loan type, any details that in the inspection, 7-day inspection period instead of 15, right? Put it all summarized in an email for me. And then, of course, make sure you're attaching the proof of funds, your pre-approval letters, again, some of the basics. But I like to be able to just look at an email and say, oh, here's the complete offer, and happen to go in there and scroll and look here and try to remember and, maybe write it down on a side sheet.
That's a good tip, actually.
Yeah, just a summarization, just real quick and easy.
So when we get back with Happy Hour Holidaze, we'll ask Brandon Rhymes, because I always like to ask this for good salespeople. Why didn't they decide to do anything else? Like, what kept you in the real estate industry and not jump around to something else as being a successful salesman? Welcome back to Happy Hour Holidaze. And just to plug us, we're your go-to podcast for business, entrepreneurship, and life stories. We want you to be successful, and we want you to have that motivation to make your dreams come true. Brandon, we were kind of talking about, look, I'm always curious when there's like a great salesperson in the room. What keeps you in your industry and not, being like, hey, maybe I can make more money doing this or this? Like, what kept you for, the love in real estate overall?
Yeah. So I had a early career. I was in mortgage. So I did mortgage as a mortgage broker. I was a mortgage loan officer. I also worked as an account executive for a large bank as well. So I've seen the mortgage industry from all angles. And that was my first experience into kind of your commission-based sales, right? Where you'd get, big check for, depending on how much time.
Can you give us a timeline here?
Yeah, that was back in 2001, because one of my first jobs out of school, I was working at the Ritz-Carlton in Naples. So it's pretty cool because I was working at a 5-star, 5-diamond hotel. And I was actually at the spa, which was a 55,000 square foot brand new spa. They charged $75,000 a year to be a member there. I mean, it's high end, right? And then they did Tiburon, the golf course across the way. Greg Norman designed the golf course. But I was a personal trainer and a assistant fitness manager in that capacity. But I had a really good knowledge I learned a lot about first class service. Working at the Ritz-Carlton. And it kind of tainted me in a way, as far as like when I go on trips now, if I stay, if I'm staying somewhere or go out to a nice restaurant, I'm like, man, my service would have been better at a Ritz, but I judge people based on, or judge my servers and just people based on that. If you're staying at a nice hotel, different places, it's like you expect a certain level of service, and I bring that level of service into our real estate business, where it's it's our pleasure to serve. Just some of the basic things. It's my pleasure. So many times people say, "Oh, no problem, no problem." Well, no, it's my pleasure, right? And so replace "no problem" with "it's my pleasure." But anyways, yeah. So that's back in 2001, whenever 9/11 happened, and so I got into mortgage sales because hospitality shut down. I mean, people weren't jumping on planes back then. So then I got into that, and my dad was always saying, "Hey, get your mortgage broker license. Get your real estate license." He kind of pushed me in that direction, and it made sense. I was like, "Okay, great. So let's move up the ladder here. Who's giving mortgage brokers deals? Oh, the real estate agent does." Right. So that's when I got into real estate, and yeah, I love commission-based sales. I love getting out there, making it happen. And the freedom that you have with it, and also building a team has been a big game changer. Once my wife joined me in the real estate business, probably 4 or 5 years ago now.
Yeah. And then, with the whole talk of Chat GPT and, AI and all that kind of stuff, have you had has that had any influence on your business to make it simpler or to help out? Maybe listing description, something like that?
No, I don't mess with that. We just had our risk aversion class with Keller Williams. Our ownership group has about 1,000 agents in it, and they're a great group. And we just had this class they make us take. It's called mandatory risk aversion. It's all the things to be careful of, because realtors get sued at an alarming high rate. They get sued over different things. But if you start using AI and putting that in your description, and you say the wrong thing or you word something wrong or incorrectly, then you can come back and say it's gonna come to you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the computer wrote it or AI wrote it. Nope, you're the one that signed off on it.
Yeah. That's true.
So AI that hasn't affected me a whole lot.
No. Yeah, I got you.
Yep.
So when it comes to
this whole podcast is run on AI.
There you go.
Not even kidding.
Yeah, well, that's good for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
for this.
And then we use that.
See what AI is meant to do is supposed to be your helper. Once you write your own description, then you plug it into ChatGPT and you tell it, "Hey, make this sound more elaborate and more professional, because we're not writers, right?
Yeah.
We're not. We didn't go to college for writing. We're not creative writers. Maybe some of us are, but then, writers don't make money. So once it spits it out, you're supposed to look through it before you just make it your finalized property description. It actually helps and saves time, man. I think it is something that you should consider. While there is some risk there, the risk is probably where the person puts it in, it spits it out, and then just throws it on the MLS. Yeah. That's probably where the risk
Instead
is.
Of editing
because risk aversion, you said what they said, be careful. They didn't say don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm all about AI, man.
Well, it's good for these reels and different things like that.
Not only that, bro, but now I don't even edit the videos themselves. I have a program that just chops it all up.
That's perfect.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. Certain
and
things
it's cheap.
like that.
And it's cheap.
It works well.
Yeah,
definitely.
And
I'm pro AI.
There you go.
But when we talk about, just the older generation to today's generation, what are the biggest flaws we're seeing in the workforce? Between what people used to do with the cold calling, and I was kind of going back to that. I was telling you that a lot of people don't do that. So, and I feel like it's going to fade more and more as we continue to evolve in this generation, because everybody just wants to text. What are the biggest differences from when you started real estate, when you first got into it, to now?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Technology has made a big change. There's definitely a lot in technology, and I think as far as cold calling, calling those FSBOs, those expired leads, those canceled, you're still going to have that personality type, those certain people that are going to call. And it's funny because a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, you're the 8th person or 11th person to call me." And I say, well, you're gonna get up to the 30s probably before today's over. And my response to that is, they'll say something like, you're the 3rd realtor that's called me. I say, well, I'm not just a realtor. I'm a syndicated radio and TV show host, and we feature our listings in ways that no one else does. So I kind of go into my pitch, which is different, and unique. And that's where I'm able to kind of capture. I get told 3 or 4 times a week, wow, that's innovative. That's unique. I do want to meet with you. And, oh yeah, I'd love to come check out your radio and TV show. I'll invite people down to the show to come check it out, and it creates a lot of different relationships in other ways too.
Yeah, and going
there's your USP.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And going back to your radio show, if you haven't heard it before, Brandon has a ton of expert contributors. Like, if you want to know more information about any kind of industry, he has all of them on there. We're talking about from mortgage brokers to lawyers to mayors
to guns and guards.
Yeah.
One of your expert contributors was Brian Gordon, who we had on the show before. The guy was a great guest. That's for sure.
Yeah, Brian does a lot for veterans. We're co-sponsoring a race coming up in November as well.
November 18th, right?
Veterans
OTS
race.
for vets. Yeah, we're doing that too.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a lot. We love supporting, the good folks like that in the community. And Thomas King is a mutual connection there with Florida Firearms. He's always such a great guy in the community, and he put us in touch.
So it's not just about mortgages and real estate. You have lawyers on there. You have people that handle firearms, things of that nature. Can you just go through maybe a couple of your guests?
Yeah, thank you, because it is, and that's what's unique. Because when I first started off, I called it the Real Estate Quarterback Show.
And now then I rebranded.
Yeah, because now I'm a consumer advocate. We talk a lot about. I have tech experts that come on. They'll talk about all these schemes and scams going on. AI kind of leading into that, taking people's voices. And I had a friend that had the call of, hey, I'm in the back seat. Yeah, give them the money. Give them the money. It was the mom's voice telling the daughter, yes, give them the money. I'm in the back seat at gunpoint.
I heard about that story.
So you got to be careful. But yeah, so with our show, it's CPAs, financial advisors. I've got a auto industry expert that owns 5 car dealerships in the southeast of the United States. Private pilot, my buddy Captain Will Smith. We have a boating and yachting expert. So see, what we're doing there is we're going into all these different niches, and I'm asking them, I want to know, as a consumer advocate, what do I need to know, and why should I care? Right? Those are the 2 questions.
The second question is a good point.
Yeah, why do I care? I want to know about it. It's something I need to know, but why do I care? Like, what's the implications if I don't do this or I don't know that? And that's what I love about being that consumer advocate, being on air for 10 years now, asking these different questions. You mentioned lawyers. There's so many different niches in law, right? Personal injury, work comp,
divorce,
family law, divorce situations, estate planning, tax planning, all these different areas that people sometimes forget about. Criminal defense. We've got a great criminal defense attorney that comes on, and he'll kind of break down some of the different cases that are popular.
For all you criminals out there, what's the guy's name?
Anthony Rickman Law Firm.
Call Anthony Rickman at Rickman Law Firm.
Let him know you heard about him here on the podcast. But yeah, he has, interesting different cases that come up, like the one with the actor that shot the person on the movie set. All these different
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. All these different, and we had a serial killer in Tampa not long ago.
Yeah, that was like 3-4 years ago. Yeah.
So he updates us on these different things. But I always want to have content that's interesting, that's topical, and it's timely.
Yeah. It's a great show.
I probably have one of the biggest questions that I think every person, in society always asks themselves. What versus buying and renting? Why should you buy a house?
Why should you buy now?
Yeah, why or no? I mean, even now.
Because the interest rates are high. Let's make it current, right?
Because a lot of we have a lot of millionaires out there saying no, renting is better, and then buying is better. So, in your take, how would you?
But I mean, if you think about renting, it's probably if maybe you're new to a town and you want to rent for 6 months just to get a lay of the land, right? Yeah. That's where it would be advantageous to rent. Or if there's certain situations where you're waiting on a spouse to join you or something like that, right? You're in a different city and she's going to join you in 6 months. But outside of that, the wealth is built by owning real estate, right? Owning businesses and owning real estate. And the more write-offs you have, that's why you have that side hustle business. Maybe you're buying things online or buying clothes from different places, selling them online, right? Now you got all these write-offs. But as far as real estate goes, you're able to own for less than you can renting, even at rates that we're seeing right now. And then you can also do buy downs on the rates and get a lower rate. You can lock that rate down. And then also, the rates will come down at some point. I think, there's nowhere for them to go. Once we see this continued hike, I think it's going to hike up a little bit more and then come down. But yeah, you'll see that happen. And when you're owning real estate, think about it from a perspective of building a family and building wealth and having that pride in home ownership. I think there's a lot to be said for it's kind of, I've heard it referred to as the tragedy of the commons, right? If you see this in inner cities, right? They're all renters in a certain area. There's trash on the corners. Nobody cares as much. They're not going to pick up that trash because they're only renting here anyways, right? But if you own it, you're investing in it. You're painting the fences on the weekends. You're putting in the plants that the wife said you got to get done. You're doing all these things that you are going to do it because you have that pride in home ownership. And I think that's what that's part of the American dream. I think the American dream could be different for different people, but it's home ownership is one. I think owning a business is the American dream, and we're starting to lose a sense of that.
And also, I mean, to your opinion, Brandon, when it comes to really getting the most out of your money, I mean, I know a lot of people get scared, but I think, in my opinion, I feel like if you bought a piece of land and built a house, the equity you're going to have in the long run compared to what you're going to have if you go out there and buy a retail home from a builder. I mean, if there's people out there and they're a little nervous about, hey, maybe I want to buy a piece of land to build a house. I mean, what's your advice to them when it comes to buying something brand spanking new and paying retail price or giving yourself a chance with a piece of property and building a house? Yeah,
custom built. That's what we did. My wife and I did. So we've done that, and it's yes, it can be a taxing process. It can be frustrating, but I think it's worth it. I think that if you buy the dirt, you build what you want. You can have all of the different additions and all the little different things that you've always wanted, right? Yeah. Hey, I've always wanted this man's cave or whatever you call it, right? All these different things that you can add in, and you can design it, and yes, and the more involved that you are with the process. And the more hands-on and the more intelligently you can structure the contracts, then those are tips I'll be happy to help people with, because if you have change orders and all these different things, it can cost you more in the long run with builders, and it's always going to take longer than they say it's going to take. That's just something's going to happen. And then you mentioned also retail builds. So these are your big national builders that are slamming properties out fast as they can. If you're buying one of those, make sure you have your own independent home inspector. A lot of people don't know that they can do that, or they just take the builder's word for it. Oh, you may not need it. We have our own inspectors. Have your own inspector inspect those properties and then the other thing is the resale properties, right? So inventory's low. Buy that piece of dirt that you like. Have that long-term vision, that long-term plan. And then also you have construction to perm financing too, which is a little bit different than the other, traditional buying.
For sure. So when we get back, I want to, we live in
you got
beautiful.
4 minutes left.
Oh, I thought. Oh, okay.
I went like this.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
are we filming one more?
Yeah. Isn't
Okay.
it? Yeah. I mean,
for bonus episodes, it's usually only 3.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever you want to do. But anyways, let's just go into it right now.
Whatever you guys
want. Yeah, going into...
you want to get lunch, right?
Yeah, we get lunch after.
Yeah. Yep. All right, well, just real quick on to ask Brandon. I know we live in beautiful Tampa Bay, and there's a lot of houses on the water. You live on the water too, Brandon. Is it worth living on the water for those days when the hurricane comes and everybody's fucking freaking out?
Right.
I'm always like, man, I want to live on the water. But then you're like thinking, man, those days when... we have something close by.
Yeah.
Is it worth putting up everything you have to do to live on the water? I think it is. I was just going to get your take on it.
Yeah.
We're talking about any kind of body of water, the ocean, lakes, whatever it is, what is your feeling on that when it comes to the cons and the positives on that?
Yeah, pros and cons living on the water.
Yeah.
Insurances are gonna be a major indicator of budget wise if you can afford it or not. And when you get into the velocity zones, I think that's one of the key is the closer you are to the beaches and the intercoastals, that's what they call your velocity zones. That's where the storm's gonna push and you're gonna have that surge, and that's gonna go for miles in certain cases. We've seen it happen in Fort Myers, and then just most recently up towards the Panhandle. And that's where, we kind of have almost, in a sense, the best of both worlds. We're waterfront, but we're on a lake.
Yeah.
Lake Tarpon is a large lake. It's 2,500 acre lake, but it's not tidal. You're not getting those tidal surges, right?
Yeah.
So it's a controlled body of water. We are waterfront. We're built up to a certain elevation. The elevation is going to be a key determinant of how much flood you're going to have if there is a flood, the rising water situation. I think, look, we live in Florida. It's a great place to be within your budgets. You just kind of look at where you want to be within your budgets. A lot of people love to just jump on the boat. They're now in the Gulf of Mexico. You're out there fishing for grouper, snapper, whatever. That's the Florida lifestyle. I think a lot of people still love that.
Yeah, and just going back to, it's been awesome having you on, Brandon, and to all these business entrepreneur people out there trying to make their dreams come true. What can you tell them, or what are your final words to these people?
Yeah. Look, in any business, there's good, better, and best, right? And you want to be able to say that you're the best in your business. So how do you do that? It's going to take time in some places, and it's going to take an investment in education. One of the things I've always done with my career is I've always been listening to podcasts, reading books, getting into the details of what it takes to be successful. Because if you can do that, if you can separate yourself from the average, ordinary, basic realtors that are doing all the traditional and basic stuff, basic marketing, and you can say, hey, here's my USP, here's what I do that's different, here's why you want to join my team, here's what we're going to do for you, because it comes down to adding value. The more value you can add to the client, the more that you can differentiate yourself from the other competitors, because I think real estate's probably the most competitive industry, right? On one hand, you think about like personal injury lawyers because you see these billboards and stuff, but you still, at that point, you had to pass the bar, you had to be an attorney. A realtor has a lower barrier. It's like a 62-hour class, right? And that's something to look at, is just investing in yourself, investing in growing your business, and finding a mentor that can help you do it.
Gotcha. And, we really appreciate Brandon Rhymes coming on Consumer Quarterback Show. Listen to this. This is going to be one of our bonus episodes. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for listening to Happy Hour Holidaze.